The U.S. Navy SEALs and Air Force just launched a joint operation against a cartel boat loaded with millions in narcotics. At first, it looked like the smugglers could escape into open waters. But what happened next shocked everyone watching and changed the balance of power on the seas. At 10:15 a.m. local time, a cartel go-fast boat ripped across the Gulf of Mexico at nearly 52 knots. Its 4 giant outboard engines screamed as the crew pushed the vessel to full speed, leaving behind a long white trail of wake. To anyone watching from the coast, it looked like another smuggling run. But this one was different. This boat wasn't just fast. It was carrying nearly $60 million worth of narcotics hidden under tarps and in reinforced compartments. On board were 5 armed cartel operatives, each carrying AK rifles and sidearms, trained to defend their cargo at all costs. They had made runs like this before, 19 successful trips without capture. To them, the Gulf was theirs to control. But what they didn't know, the U.S. military was waiting. From the start, this was no ordinary chase. The smugglers thought speed would protect them, but their every move was already being tracked. High above the clouds, at 22,000 feet, a U.S. Air Force E-3 Sentry AWACS scanned the waters below with powerful radar. Every turn, every burst of acceleration from the cartel boat was visible to Joint Task Force South. Alongside the AWACS, an MQ-9 Reaper drone provided real-time video, zooming in on the vessel's deck to confirm weapons and cargo. The smugglers had no idea they were being watched from multiple angles, their supposed stealth broken by American surveillance. The U.S. Command Center quickly confirmed what the drone saw: 5 men on board, all armed, no signs of fishing equipment, and heavy packages stacked under tarps. This wasn't a gamble. It was clear intelligence. The call was made. This was a high-value narco target, and the operation to intercept was given full clearance. At this point, the cartel's confidence was their greatest weakness. They believed they were untouchable, able to outrun patrol boats and fade into the vast Gulf. But the Navy and Air Force had already set the trap. The smugglers pushed toward international waters, thinking distance would protect them. Instead, they had walked into the jaws of a coordinated strike. Already, American aircraft were moving into position. 2 A-10C Warthogs, diverted from a nearby patrol, set their eyes on the fleeing boat. Meanwhile, hundreds of miles closer, aboard the USS Curtis Wilbur, a Navy destroyer operating under Southern Command, Navy SEALs geared up inside an MH-60 Seahawk helicopter, preparing to launch. The smugglers were still laughing and joking on deck, unaware their speed meant nothing against the overwhelming air and sea power about to descend. The stage was set. A cartel boat, overloaded with drugs and guns, was about to face the combined fury of U.S. Air Force firepower and Navy SEAL precision. The Gulf of Mexico was no longer their highway. It was about to become their trap. The cartel boat had been under surveillance long before it even left the shoreline. For weeks, U.S. intelligence agencies worked hand-in-hand to map cartel smuggling patterns across the Gulf. Signals picked up by satellites revealed coded radio chatter that hinted at a major shipment leaving Mexican waters. Analysts at Joint Task Force South flagged it as high priority, suspecting it could be one of the biggest narcotics runs of the year. To confirm, the CIA tracked movements inside cartel-controlled ports, watching as containers filled with cocaine were loaded into hidden compartments of a go-fast boat. Every barrel, every tarp, and every reinforced panel was logged. By the time the vessel roared out into open waters, U.S. forces already knew what was inside. Overhead, an E-3 Sentry AWACS controlled the skies. Its radar scanned hundreds of miles of ocean, plotting the cartel boat's course with pinpoint accuracy. Alongside, an MQ-9 Reaper drone shadowed the smugglers from above, feeding live video back to command screens in Florida. Nothing escaped its infrared cameras. It captured the 5 armed men pacing on deck, confirmed their weapons, and even spotted the outlines of hidden packages below. This wasn't guesswork. The cartel boat was caught in a digital net, every move recorded in real time. At sea, the USS Curtis Wilbur, an Arleigh Burke-class destroyer, was already in position. Its powerful Aegis system tracked the same target from dozens of miles away. Inside its hangar bay, an MH-60 Seahawk helicopter was prepared for launch, loaded with Navy SEALs, ready to board the vessel once it slowed down. The plan was simple. The Air Force would box in the smugglers, force them to lose speed, and the SEALs would storm the deck. The smugglers had speed, but the U.S. had reach, timing, and coordination. At 10:30 a.m., the first layer of the trap closed in. Two A-10C Warthogs diverted from their patrol zone and banked toward the Gulf, locking onto the fleeing boat. Their long loiter time and devastating 30mm GAU-8 cannons made them the perfect choice for intimidation and, if needed, destruction. The cartel crew spotted the faint silhouettes above and realized too late that they had been found. The engines roared louder as they pushed to maximum speed, but the odds were already against them. The smugglers zigzagged across the waves, creating massive rooster tails in a desperate attempt to shake surveillance. But every move was tracked, every turn predicted. U.S. controllers knew the boat couldn't keep that pace forever. Its engines would overheat, fuel would bleed out faster, and the crew would panic as the trap tightened. The stage was fully set. Overhead, the Air Force controlled the skies. At sea, Navy SEALs prepared for the final strike. The smugglers thought speed could save them, but now they were racing against time, and time was already lost. The first clash came fast and violent. At 10:45 a.m., the A-10 Warthogs broke silence. Diving low over the Gulf waters, they lined up their targets and squeezed the triggers. Streams of 30mm rounds ripped across the sea just 100 meters ahead of the speeding go-fast boat. The water erupted in tall geysers, each burst a warning that the Americans had full control of the sky. The smugglers panicked instantly. The helmsman yanked the wheel, swerving hard, and the boat's four engines screamed as they fought against the sudden maneuver. But no matter how sharp the turns, the Warthogs adjusted effortlessly, circling above with eyes locked on their prey. The message was clear: the cartel boat would not outrun death from the air. On board the vessel, chaos broke out. The 5 cartel operatives scrambled for their weapons. 2 raised AK-47s and sprayed wildly at the sky, their tracers falling short against aircraft circling thousands of feet overhead. Another man manned a small mounted machine gun, his bursts kicking salt spray but never touching the jets above. Every shot was wasted, every bullet fired into the void. They shouted frantically into radios, trying to call for backup, but the signals were already jammed. Electronic warfare pods from U.S. aircraft silenced their calls before they left the boat. They were alone, trapped, and surrounded. Meanwhile, the MH-60 Seahawk lifted off from the deck of the USS Curtis Wilbur. Its blades thundered against the air as it closed in fast on the fleeing boat. Inside, Navy SEALs sat in silence, their gear locked, rifles ready, waiting for the green light. They had rehearsed this dozens of times, storming mock vessels in training drills. Now, it was real. The crew knew their task: seize the narcotics, capture the smugglers alive, and shut down one of the cartel's richest smuggling operations. At 11 a.m., the second phase of firepower struck. One Warthog unleashed another burst, this time aimed directly at the waterline just ahead of the Go Fast. The rounds churned the surface like a blender, and fragments sprayed across the hull. The boat jolted violently as one of its engines was torn apart. Its speed dropped instantly, plunging from nearly 50 knots down to just over 30. For the first time, the smugglers realized their legendary go-fast boat was no longer fast enough. With speed gone, desperation set in. One of the cartel crew fired an RPG-7 into the sky, the missile streaking up before spiraling harmlessly back into the waves. The act was reckless, proof of their panic, and it confirmed they were willing to risk anything. The A-10s banked low again, but this time they held fire. The smugglers were being toyed with, slowed, and forced into submission. Above, the Seahawk drew closer, its snipers already leaning from the doors with crosshairs fixed on the deck. The trap was closing tight. The Go Fast was crippled, the crew was panicked, and the next move belonged to the SEALs. The first shots had already sealed their fate. By 11:20 a.m., the chase was over. The crippled cartel Go Fast limped forward on 3 failing engines, its speed dropping every minute. The waves that once parted cleanly under its hull now dragged against it, slowing its desperate escape. Overhead, the A-10s circled like vultures, ready to fire again if the smugglers made one wrong move. The MH-60 Seahawk roared in low, rotor wash, throwing up curtains of seawater as it shadowed the boat. From its side doors, Navy SEAL gunners leaned out with M240 machine guns, firing short, controlled bursts into the water near the smugglers. The message was simple: surrender or die. The final act began when two RHIBS, rigid hull inflatable boats, launched from the USS Curtis Wilbur, cutting across the waves at blistering speed. Each boat carried SEALs armed with HK-416 rifles, body armor glinting under the Caribbean sun. The cartel fighters, trapped and exhausted, tried one last stand. They fired their AKs wildly at the incoming RHIBS, but their shots splashed harmlessly into the ocean. The SEALs advanced with precision, shields up, covering every angle as they closed the gap. Above, snipers in the Seahawk kept their scopes trained on the helmsman, ready to end the fight in a second if resistance continued. At 11:25, the first RHIB slammed against the Go Fast's starboard side. Grappling hooks flew, ropes tightened, and within seconds, SEALs were over the rail, storming the deck. Flashbangs detonated, their blinding light and deafening thunder breaking the last sliver of cartel morale. Two smugglers dropped their weapons instantly, hands raised in surrender. Another was tackled to the deck before he could reload his machine gun. The final two tried to retreat toward the boat's stern, but warning bursts from the SEALs stopped them cold. In less than 90 seconds, the fight was over. The boarding team secured the deck, cleared the compartments, and uncovered the stash. Under blue tarps, packed tight into the hold, were 2.8 tons of cocaine worth over $60 million. Bundled cash and encrypted satellite phones were found alongside, proving this was no random smuggling run, but part of a larger trafficking chain. The smugglers were zip-tied, searched, and lined up on deck as SEAL medics checked them for injuries. None were seriously harmed, but their empire had just been ripped from beneath them. At 11:40 a.m., the operation moved into its final stage. After stripping the vessel of intelligence and evidence, the SEALs poured accelerant across its deck. The smugglers were lifted into the Seahawk for transport, and the RHIBS pulled back. Then came the order: burn it. A flare was tossed, and within minutes the $60 million Go Fast was engulfed in flames, thick black smoke rising over the Gulf. By noon, only charred wreckage floated on the waves. The result was absolute: 5 cartel operatives captured alive, over 2.8 tons of narcotics seized and destroyed, 0 American casualties. A flawless mission executed with precision from the first warning burst to the last flame on the water. The message was written across the Caribbean: when the U.S. Air Force and Navy SEALs combine, no cartel escape route survives.